The Rigveda is an ancient Indian collection of Vedic Sanskrit hymns. It is one of the four canonical sacred texts of Hinduism known as the Vedas. The text is a collection of 1,028 hymns and 10,600 verses, organized into 10 books. The hymns are dedicated to Rigvedic deities. The Rigveda begins with a small book addressed to deity Agni, Indra and other gods, all arranged according to decreasing total number of hymns in each deity collection. For each deity series, the hymns progress from longer to shorter ones, yet the number of hymns per book increases. Finally, the meter is systematically arranged from Jagati and Tristubh to Anustubh and Gayatri as the text progresses. In terms of substance, the hymns predominantly discuss cosmology and praise deities in the earliest composed 8 books, shifting in books 1 and 10, that were added last, to philosophical or speculative questions about the origin of the universe and the nature of God, the virtue of dana in society, and other metaphysical issues in its hymns. Rigveda is one of the oldest extant texts in any Indo-European language. Philological and linguistic evidence indicate that the Rigveda was composed in the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent, most likely between c. 1500 to 1200 BC, though a wider approximation of c. 1700 to 1100 BC has also been given. Some of its verses continue to be recited during Hindu rites of passage celebrations such as weddings and religious prayers, making it probably the world's oldest religious text in continued use. Text. The surviving form of the Rigveda is based on an early Iron Age collection that established the core family books and a later redaction, coeval with the redaction of the other Vedas, dating several centuries after the hymns were composed. This redaction also included some additions and orthoepic changes to the Vedic Sanskrit, such as the regularization of Sandhi. As with the other Vedas, the redacted text has been handed down in several versions. Most importantly, the Padapatha, that has each word isolated in pausa form and is used for just one way of memorization, and the Samhitapatha, that combines words according to the rules of Sandhi and is the memorized text used for recitation. The Padapatha and the Pratisakya anchor the text's fidelity and meaning, and the fixed text was preserved with unparalleled fidelity for more than a millennium by oral tradition alone. In order to achieve this, the oral tradition prescribed very structured enunciation, involving breaking down the Sanskrit compounds into stems and inflections, as well as certain permutations. This interplay with sounds gave rise to a scholarly tradition of morphology and phonetics. The Rigveda was probably not written down until the Gupta period, by which time the Brahma script had become widespread. The oral tradition still continued into recent times. The original text is close to but not identical to the extant Samhitapatha, but metrical and other observations allow to reconstruct the original text from the extant one, as printed in the Harvard Oriental Series, Volume 50. Organization Mandala. The text is organized in 10 books, known as mandalas, of varying age and length. The family books, Mandalas 2 to 7, are the oldest part of the Rigveda and the shortest books. They are arranged by length and account for 38% of the text. Within each book, the hymns are arranged in collections, each dealing with a particular deity. Agni comes first, Indra comes second, and so on. Within each collection, the hymns are arranged in the descending order in the number of stanzas per hymn. If 2 hymns in the same collection have equal number of stanzas, then they are arranged so that the number of syllables in the meter are in descending order. The 8th and 9th mandalas, comprising hymns of mixed age, account for 15% and 9%, respectively. The 1st and the 10th mandalas are the youngest. They are also the longest books, of 191 suttas each, accounting for 37% of the text. Sutta. Each mandala consists of hymns called sutta intended for various rituals. The suktish in turn consist of individual stanzas called RC, which are further analyzed into units of verse called pada. The meters most used in the RCAs are the Jagati, Trishub, Viraj, Gayatri and Ushub. For pedagogical convenience, each mandala is synthetically divided into roughly equal sections of several suktish, called an avakar, which modern publishers often omit. Another scheme divides the entire text over the 10 mandalas into Astaka, Adhyaya and Varga. Some publishers give both classifications in a single edition. The most common numbering scheme is by book, hymn and stanza, e.g., the first pada is 1.1.1a Agni Mile Purohitam, Agni I invoke, the house priest, and the final pada is 10.191, 4d Yatha Vah Susahe Sati. Popular suktish include Purusha Sukta, Durga Sukta and Shri Sukta. Recensions. Several shakas of Rigveda are known to have existed in the past. Of these, Akalya is the only one to have survived in its entirety. Another shaka that may have survived is the Bhaskala, although this is uncertain. The surviving Padapatha version of the Rigveda text is ascribed to Akalya. The Akala recension has 1017 regular hymns, and an appendix of 11 Valakilya hymns which are now customarily included in the 8th mandala, for a total of 1028 hymns. The Bhaskala recension includes 8 of these Valakilya hymns among its regular hymns, making a total of 1025 regular hymns for this Saka. In addition, the Bhaskala recension has its own appendix of 98 hymns, the Kalani. In the 1877 edition of Alfrecht, the 1028 hymns of the Rigveda contain a total of 10,552 RCS, or 39,831 padis. The Shatapatha Brahmana gives the number of syllables to be 432,000, while the metrical text of Van Norton and Holland has a total of 395,563 syllables. Counting the number of syllables is not straightforward because of issues with Sandhi in the post-Rigvedic pronunciation of syllables like Suva as Svar. 3 other shakas are mentioned in Karanavyuha, a Parisista of Yajurveda, Mandukayana, Asvalilayana and Ankayana. The Atharvaveda lists 2 or shakas. The differences between all these shakas are very minor, limited to varying order of content and inclusion of a few verses. The following information is known about the shakas other than Akalya and Bhaskala. Mandukayana, perhaps the oldest of the Rigvedic shakas, Asvalayana, includes 212 verses, all of which are newer than the other Rigvedic hymns. Ankayana, very similar to Asvalilayana, Caesarea, mentioned in the Rigveda Pratasakya, very similar to Akala, with a few additional verses, might have derived from or merged with it. Rishisa tradition associates a rishi with each RC of the Rigveda. Most suktish are attributed to single composers. The family books are so called because they have hymns by members of the same clan in each book, but other clans are also represented in the Rigveda. In all, 10 families of Rishisa account for more than 95% of the RCS. For each of them, the Rigveda includes a lineage-specific Aprihim have preserved the complete text of the Rigveda. MS No. 5 1875-76, written on birch bark in bold Sharada, was only in part used by Max Muller for his edition of the Rigveda with Sayana's commentary. Muller used 24 manuscripts then available to him in Europe, while the Pune edition used over 6 manuscripts. But the editors of Pune edition could not procure many manuscripts used by Muller and by the Bombay edition, as well as from some other sources. Hence the total number of extant manuscripts known then must surpass perhaps 80 at least. Analytics. The various Rigveda manuscripts discovered so far show some differences. Broadly, the most studied Akala recension has 1017 hymns. Includes an appendix of 11 Valakilya hymns which are often counted with the 8th mandala, for a total of 1028 metrical hymns. The Basakala version of Rigveda includes 8 of these Valakilya hymns among its regular hymns, making a total of 1025 hymns in the main text for this Saka. The Basakala text also has an appendix of 98 hymns, called the Kalani, bringing the total to 1,123 hymns. The manuscripts of Akala recension of the Rigveda have about 10,600 verses, organized into 10 books. Books 2 through 7 are internally homogeneous in style, while books 1, 8 and 10 are compilation of verses of internally different styles, suggesting that these books are likely a collection of compositions by many authors. The first mandala is the largest, with 191 hymns and 2,006 hymns, and it was added to the text after books 2 through 9. The last, or the 10th book, also has 191 hymns but 1,754 verses, making it the second largest. The language analytics suggest the 10th book, chronologically, was composed and added last. The content of the 10th book also suggests that the authors knew and relied on the contents of the first 9 books. The Rigveda is the largest of the 4 Vedas, and many of its verses appear in the other Vedas. Almost all of the 1,875 verses found in Samaveda are taken from different parts of the Rigveda, either once or as repetition, and rewritten in a chant song form. The books 8 and 9 of the Rigveda are by far the largest source of verses for Samaveda. The book 10 contributes the largest number of the 1,350 verses of Rigveda found in Atharva Veda, or about 1/5 of the 5,987 verses in the Atharva Veda text. A bulk of 1,875 ritual-focused verses of Yajurveda, in its numerous versions, also borrow and build upon the foundation of verses in Rigveda.